Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The holiday shopping season is in full swing. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. With deals to be had, Black Friday shoppers were out snatching up the savings, leading to a record $9.8 billion in sales. But a reported rise in retail theft is causing some concern. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen looks into the numbers.
Nationwide, shoppers were out in force this weekend to snatch up those holiday deals. According to MasterCard spending polls, consumer spending was up 2.5% over last year. At the same time, the National Retail Federation says retail theft cost the industry more than $112 billion last year. NRF Vice President of Asset Protection and Retail Operations, David Johnston, says the level of theft is unprecedented.
Criminal groups have become more brazen and open and violent in their tactics over time. 88% of our retailers reported that shoplifters overall are somewhat more or much more aggressive and violent compared to 1 year ago.
Certainly, viral videos of thieves grabbing things off the shelves with impunity add to the perception that retail theft is on the rise. But according to the San Diego Police Department, theft was down nearly 15% last year. But that didn't stop SDPD from announcing it would increase patrol at shopping centers. University of San Diego economics professor Alan Jin says that's a bit of security theater.
Yes, it is to make people feel safer when they go out shopping.
Jin says compared to the first 6 months of 2019, a year before the pandemic, and the first 6 months of this year, retail theft is actually down.
So I think what the numbers show is that possibly inventory loss is up compared to 2020 and 2021, but those are pandemic years, so they were down considerably.
He says what the industry is seeing could be attributed to a lack of security staffing at stores and the use of self-checkout counters rather than a rise in shoplifting. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Tensions in the Middle East are easing, at least temporarily. Israel and Hamas have agreed to extend a 4-day truce for 2 more days. And it comes after Hamas released a group of 17 hostages on Sunday and another 11 today. John Lawrence reports.
Thousands of people in an open market in Deir al-Balah on Sunday getting necessities like food and clothing for the first time in weeks.
We were afraid to go out because of the missiles and the airstrikes. But since the first day of the ceasefire, we have been able to go out to buy our needs safely.
During the 4-day truce with the Israeli military, Hamas has released dozens of hostages, and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society says it's delivered around 100 trucks worth of aid to northern Gaza.
Nothing is being taken for granted, but the proof that this is working and worth pursuing further is in every smile and every grateful tear we see on the faces of those families who are finally getting back together again.
In a statement Sunday night, Hamas says it wants, quote, to extend the truce after the 4-day period ends through serious efforts to increase the number of those released from imprisonment as stipulated in the humanitarian ceasefire agreement. Israel's ambassador to the United States, meanwhile, is stressing this is a pause, not a ceasefire.
Israel cannot and will not allow itself to stop pushing against Hamas to remove that threat following October 7th, because we cannot allow ourselves to have Hamas continue to rule Gaza, rearm, regroup, and strike again.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Some changes coming up over the next 12 to 24 hours. The wind will be relaxing. We'll also note another dry and mild day as we work our way into Tuesday. After Tuesday, we start to see some changes coming into play, so Wednesday and beyond that will involve some wet weather. We'll take a look at that as well as temperatures as we work our way down the road into late week and much more, all coming up here in just a bit. Stay with us.
Things are mostly back to normal at TriCity Medical Center after a cybersecurity attack. KPBS North County reporter Jacob Ayer says the incident lasted more than a week.
Oceanside's TriCity Medical Center has restored its electronic health platform and resumed accepting ambulance traffic.
So now that systems are back online, that most likely means that the threat has been contained and hopefully eradicated.
Nicholas Behar is a professor of cybersecurity at University of San Diego. He says the attack may be stopped, but the situation is far from over.
According to federal law, any healthcare organization has to notify patients that their information was stolen without unreasonable delay, and it has to be done in 60 days or less following the discovery of the breach.
The breach was discovered on November 9th, and it severely impacted operations for more than a week.
And if 500 or more patients have been affected, then the medical provider is actually required to notify the media.
TriCity hired a public relations firm to deal with this attack. It says the incident is still being investigated, and they will update staff, patients, and the community as more information becomes available. Their statement says TriCity's top priority has been the health and wellness of our patients, and thanked first responder agencies and neighboring healthcare facilities that helped during the emergency. Behar says legal trouble could be in the hospital's future.
So if it's determined that TriCity didn't take appropriate measures in order to protect the patient data, then they could be open to a lawsuit. So we've seen in some of the other healthcare breaches that have happened in San Diego, we've seen some of the patients that are now trying to sue the organizations.
TriCity has not said what caused the attack or if patient information was stolen during the incident. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Meta is accused of collecting data from children's Instagram accounts in newly unsealed court documents. Attorneys general from 33 states, including California, sued the tech giant last month. They allege that Meta received more than 1 million reports of Instagram users under the age of 13 and knowingly refused to shut down most of the accounts. The lawsuit also alleges the company collected the children's personal information without their parents' consent in violation of several laws. The states are calling for the court to prohibit these practices and order Meta to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in civil penalties. Childcare is among the largest expenses faced by working families. Pandemic-related strain on the childcare labor force led to long wait lists at military facilities across the country. But as KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer explains, the Navy says things are improving here in San Diego.
This brand new center just opened in October. It's high-tech and secure. A wall of monitors in the lobby show live video from each of the building's classrooms. Parents can drop in anytime and see their children, and front desk staff can see what's going on. All of its classrooms open to outdoor, age-appropriate playgrounds. Most are empty now, but Janet Hooten, who manages child and youth programs for the Navy throughout the Southwest, says once the center is fully staffed, there's room for more than 300 children, space that's desperately needed.
Our wait list is about 500 children for just Miramar. But Metro San Diego, we have about 2,600 children on the wait list, and about 1,100 of those are under the age of 12 months.
Those numbers are significantly better than they were during the summer of 2022, when there were more than 4,000 military kids on the San Diego wait list. Spots for infants are the most difficult to fill because of the smaller child-to-provider ratio requirements. In addition to building new centers, Hooten says better pay and bonuses help with staffing.
We are in the process of working with our colleges that have the early childhood department, and so looking at internship and bringing them on board as well.
The Navy also holds hiring and recruitment fairs for child care workers, and she says pay rates are rising well above minimum wage.
Some of the other regions were a little bit harder hit, but for us, when it hit $15, we were already paying over that. Now it's going up, I think in January, if I'm not mistaken, to $16. Minimum wage is going to $16 an hour. And so with that, we're already paying above that.
Democrat Sarah Jacobs represents California's 51st Congressional District and sits on the House Armed Services Committee. Miramar is part of her district, as are thousands of service members living in central and eastern San Diego County. She says taking care of military families at home should be a top Pentagon priority.
The number one thing that I hear from military families in my town halls with them and conversation is really about quality of life issues, predominantly housing and childcare.
Jacobs points to several amendments in next year's defense bill she says will do even more to address childcare, including better pay and benefits for workers and a boost in the childcare subsidy service members receive.
And then also on the family side, increasing transparency and accuracy of the wait lists so that they understand, how long they have to wait.
Another complication is how the DoD manages childcare workers, Hooten says. Each branch of service has their own administrative system. That means when spouses relocate to a base run by a different branch, the job doesn't move with them.
So OSD is really looking hard at that, but it's all about their retirement and how would that transfer over. It's a little bit more work when you have two different retirement systems, but they are working hard on that, especially locations like this.
The new Miramar Center is the first of 3 facility projects in San Diego. Another center at Miramar is being updated, and the Navy's building another brand new center at Naval Base Point Loma. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Remote work is here to stay for many businesses in San Diego, and that's one takeaway from a new survey from the planning agency, Sandag. But KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the benefits of remote work are not shared by everyone.
We know that only about 1 in 3 jobs in the region can be worked remotely, just due to the nature of the work.
Cindy Burke is Senior Director of Data Science at Sandag. She says jobs that have to be worked in person, like retail, food service, and hospitality, also tend to pay lower wages and are more likely to be held by Black and Latino workers or young adults.
We saw that individuals in South County were less likely to say that they could work remotely compared to the northwest part of our county.
Burke says that has implications for where and how San Diego should invest in transportation infrastructure. The impacts of remote work on vehicle travel aren't as big as initially thought. Remote workers take more trips by car during the middle of the day, outside of rush hour. And while they may not be driving to work, they are ordering more deliveries.
But we also know people are more likely to be driving to do errands and then still getting the deliveries. I may order one thing from Amazon, but I still am going to run down to the Target or Walmart to get something else.
Overall, remote work is less common in San Diego than at the height of COVID-19, but still well above pre-pandemic levels. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
There's a chance the average price for gas in San Diego will dip below $5 this week. Right now, we're at $5.03 per gallon, according to AAA, and that's 8 cents cheaper than last week and 46 cents cheaper than last month. AAA says San Diegans were paying a record $6.43 per gallon in early October. It was a holiday weekend for the record books. Americans have been packing into airports, jostling at checkouts and loading up their online shopping carts in droves. Mike Valerio breaks down all of the broken records.
Where they're taking off or checking out. Americans were setting records over the Thanksgiving holiday.
The Thanksgiving holiday period always has the busiest travel day of the entire year for us.
Thank you. The Transportation Security Administration says Sunday was the busiest day at U.S. airports ever. Yes, ever. With more than 2.9 million passengers screened at TSA checkpoints nationwide, 10% higher than the equivalent day last year.
Airports are very busy. Flights are full. Travel is back in the United States.
From the skies to the stores.
It's really the Super Bowl for the businesses and merchants.
Amped up Americans were spending big on Black Friday to the tune of an estimated $9.8 billion, with sales made from mobile devices accounting for more than half of all purchases.
The heroes here seem to be the U.S. consumer. They are strong and resilient, and they're buying.
While the early morning storefront stampede may be a thing of the past, brick and mortar visits were up 4.6% over last year, according to Sensormatic Solutions. Some shoppers looking to maintain tradition.
One of my favorite activities is going out and Black Friday shopping with my mom when I come home.
And some willing to go the distance to get discounts.
I got up at 1 a.m. this morning because it's like a 2-hour drive.
But the spending spree isn't over yet. Adobe Analytics predicts consumers will shell out $12 billion today, cashing in on Cyber Monday deals, which would set another retail record for the books. In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio.
This Cyber Monday is said to be one that may set a new all-time sales record. Shoppers are expected to fork over a total of about $12 billion today in the online shopping, and that is up 5% compared to last year.
We're doing about 2 to 3 times the amount of volume we normally do. In any given week, outside of the holidays, we're doing about 2 million packages. This week, you're looking at the most cutting-edge, state-of-the-art technology at Amazon.
The system allows Amazon to process 18,000 packages an hour. And if you're looking for the biggest discounts this year, well, that will be on toys, electronics, and on clothing items. But if you are shopping for toys this season, a warning as you shop those Cyber Monday deals. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says not all toys are safe, especially those purchased online. Mandy Gaither has ways to help make sure the presents you're buying are safe.
You want the best gift, but before you buy a toy, make sure it's the right one.
Do see too many toy injuries happening each year.
Last year, 11 toy-related deaths in children 14 and younger were reported to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, most from choking or asphyxiation due to small parts, balls, or balloons. The agency says there were also an estimated 145,000 toy-related injuries treated in emergency departments for children 12 and younger.
A lot of those actually are non-motorized scooters. So making sure that the toys are age appropriate. Look for the warnings on the toys as well.
To keep kids safe, check the labels for age guidance. Make sure what you're getting is appropriate.
Even if you're buying for an older child, think about if there are younger kids in the household too, to make it safe for everybody.
To know a toy is safe, look for a certification mark that shows it's been independently tested for safety. If buying online, check drop-down menus for additional safety information. If purchasing secondhand products online, make sure what you're buying hasn't been recalled. Online sellers may also be from a third party, so make sure they're reputable.
Far too often what we find is some of these people are based overseas, and when we see a defective product and we go back and want to recall, they just disappear.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
180 middle schoolers learned the power of earthquakes at UC San Diego today. The students designed model buildings using KNX materials. The buildings were then tested to see if they could stand up to a quake. And it's important to research this in California, given that our state is prone to earthquakes. One volunteer who went through this same program when he was in middle school is now studying engineering at UCSD and judged today's contest.
There are many techniques such as bracing, as in bracing such as diagonal braces that they can put on the sides of the buildings. They're given a shear wall with which they can brace the building, and also just adjust their dimensions, hopefully make to adjust their resonant frequency and hopefully make it more earthquake resistant.
The course ended with an awards ceremony where students received feedback on their work.
No big changes here for the overnight. We're going to stay on the dry side, and the temperature's not even all that low toward Chula Vista, down to 49. 43s both in Borrego Springs and Ramona. Mount Laguna down to 32. And again, relatively quiet here toward Oceanside. Just a few clouds around will drop down to 41. All right, let's take a look down the road here as we work our way beyond, say again, the overnight. And notice limited amounts of clouds in place. Not looking at a whole lot of, again, the marine layer influence here in the short term as we work our way to Tuesday. A mild day coming up. But note this area of low pressure into northern parts of the state. This eventually is going to sink and slide its way southeast as we go through time, and we'll start to see some changes kicking in by midweek. But a nice day setting up again as we work our way into Tuesday. Coolest of air well off to the north end of the east over the interior, surrounding and circulating around high pressure. With that in mind, let's take you down the road. Low pressure approaches with some moisture. Onshore flow kicks in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Can see a shower starting up Wednesday afternoon, but anytime Thursday and Friday. Temperatures will also be dropping here somewhat at the coast. Over the interior valley, another nice day. Wow, look at that. Mostly sunny, 74. Enjoy it. Can see a couple of showers around as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, at least a stray shower on Friday. Meanwhile, over the mountainous terrain, temperatures here also going to be dropping as we head our way toward late week. Again, note the 30s for highs as we go into Thursday and again as we head our way into the upcoming weekend. And meanwhile, over the deserts, we'll be looking at temperatures dropping down at least a little bit. Dry conditions over the next 3 days, mostly sunny skies on Tuesday. Can see a shower or two as we work our way toward late week, but all indications are the sunshine is back with us, albeit cooler into Saturday. And look at some of those overnight lows dropping down to right around 40 degrees. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, Israel and Hamas agree to extend the temporary ceasefire. Details of the deal are coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Padres say that they will pay tribute to late team owner Peter Seidler during next year's baseball season. Today, the team announced plans to add a memorial patch to the uniforms. The design will be revealed before spring training begins in February. Plans are also being made for a celebration of life to be held at Petco Park in March and a new Peter Seidler Legacy Fund to support charities in the San Diego area. An exhibit documenting the history of Filipinos and Filipino Americans in the South Bay has been extended for another year. KPBS South Bay reporter Corey Suzuki says the exhibit shines a light on the deep legacy of San Diego's Filipino community.
The exhibit is tucked away in the back corner of Chula Vista's Central Library. When you step inside, you're immediately transported across time. Old newspaper clippings and family photographs make up the Filipinos of South Bay exhibit, which tells the sweeping story of the Filipino diaspora.
What became those pillars that brought the community together? And those were the organizations from the various regions, from the various causes, like the most important one is the veterans, and then how the beauty pageants had helped with building community, and of course Philippine dance and music, bringing and elevating the Philippine presence in the South Bay, and then finally, of course, their integration into the Catholic Church.
For historian Judy Pataxil, one of her favorite stories is of the Manang, or elder brother generation, the very first Filipino immigrants to arrive on the West Coast.
That story is I think, one of my favorites because it involves my family. My father came in the late 1920s. He came to school, though, not so much, but he did become a laborer as well because the reality of discrimination and the Great Depression. But when World War II, he joined the U.S. Army, and then that's how he went back to the Philippines, met my mom, and brought her.
The exhibit also shows a range of other stories, from flags that Filipino organizers carried alongside Cesar Chavez to photos of a tiny Imperial Beach barbershop that in the evenings would transform into a dance studio. Organizers say they are fighting to get this history the recognition it deserves, even though the Filipino community is the largest Asian American group in San Diego and the second largest in California.
Even though we have been the largest Asian American ethnic group, our stories have not been told. And so for this to come to fruition and having our stories told and having media cover it, having us be in a museum, it really makes, I think, a really big difference.
Now, all of those stories will live on at the library for another year. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
Book ban battles are playing out across the country, but the San Diego Public Library wants to circumvent that censorship. KPBS's Amita Sharma says the library is offering people access to books banned in their own communities.
San Diego's public library has joined a program called Books Unbanned. It gives library cards to people who don't live in San Diego but want to read books that have been removed from their own public libraries. Misty Jones is the director of the San Diego Public Library.
It's an initiative that was started by Brooklyn Public Library, really in response to all the censorship and kind of book challenges that we've been seeing not only in school libraries but public libraries. And they were seeing parts of the country where really collections had been decimated, and we're thinking, what can we do to address this?
The collection of about 400 books includes titles like Stamped from the Beginning about racism and All Boys Aren't Blue about being LGBTQ. Jones says so far, about 470 people from the Midwest and South have accessed the program.
If we are going to protect democracy, that means that we have to step outside of our bubble. We have to step outside of what our immediate surroundings are and be part of the solution for other people as well, and other communities where people are not afforded. And so it's more than just about San Diego.
In addition to San Diego, libraries in Los Angeles, Seattle, and Boston have also joined Books Unbanned. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
If you're always striving to be true to yourself, then you're in step with the word of the year, which is authentic. Merriam-Webster says there was a substantial increase of searches for the word authentic in 2023, and it cites stories about artificial intelligence, celebrity culture, identity, social media, and even Taylor Swift for the uptick. Definitions of authentic include not false or imitation and true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. Other top words for the year include deepfake, coronation, dystopian, and riz, which means romantic appeal or charm. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. In the battle over books, who decides what's appropriate for libraries? NPR's Morning Edition discusses the efforts underway to change the way decisions are made. And KPBS's Midday Edition is discussing how engaging in panda diplomacy with China could benefit the San Diego Zoo. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.